Growing up in a quiet suburb of Ohio, Daniel Carter never quite felt like he belonged in the world laid out before him. His parents, Elaine and Michael Carter, had lived in the same house for 30 years. His father worked as an auto mechanic, and his mother was a nurse at the local hospital. Their life was stable, honest, and humble. Every Sunday, the Carters would attend church, have dinner with the extended family, and talk about practical plans for the future. From an early age, Daniel had been told exactly how his life should look. Graduate high school, go to a good college, get a stable job, something like engineering or accounting, buy a modest house, settle down with a nice girl, and live a comfortable life just like everyone else in town. That was the blueprint, and it had worked just fine for generations. But deep down, Daniel didn't want any of that. At 13, while most boys were obsessed with video games or football, Daniel was sketching out logos for imaginary companies in the back of his school notebooks. He spent hours on YouTube watching interviews of entrepreneurs, fascinated by the risk and the reward, the excitement of creating something out of nothing. While other kids dreamed of being astronauts or pro athletes, Daniel dreamed of boardrooms, startups, and international deals. His role model wasn't someone like Tom Brady or LeBron James. It was Steve Jobs. But there was one problem. No one took him seriously. Whenever Daniel brought up his dream of starting a business, his father would shake his head with a tired smile. "Son, people like us don't run companies. We work hard, we save, and we live within our means. Be realistic." His mother, always the gentle peacekeeper, would say, "Maybe once you've got a stable job, you can try something like that on the side." Even his teachers weren't supportive. His high school counselor once said, "Entrepreneurship is risky. You're a bright kid, Daniel. Why don't you look into finance or engineering instead?" Slowly, Daniel began to internalize the message that his dream was foolish, that it was better to be safe than to take a leap. And so, like many others before him, he followed the script. He applied to Ohio State and got accepted into their business program. But rather than learning how to build businesses, he found himself memorizing formulas and studying case studies about companies that already existed. It felt cold, distant, nothing like the spark he used to feel when imagining his own ventures. Still, he pushed forward. He got decent grades, joined clubs, and eventually graduated with honors. By 22, Daniel landed a corporate job in Columbus, wearing a suit every day and sitting at a desk from 9 to 5, analyzing spreadsheets for a large retail chain. To everyone else, Daniel looked like a success story. He had a solid paycheck, benefits, and was even dating a sweet girl named Amanda whom his parents adored. But inside, Daniel was miserable. Every morning, he stared at himself in the mirror and wondered, "Whose life am I living?" The job felt like a cage. The promotions, though rewarding on paper, brought no real joy. He felt like he was walking through life half asleep, living out someone else's idea of happiness. Then one night something changed. It was a stormy Tuesday evening, and Daniel had stayed late at work again. The rain was coming down hard, and he was the last one in the office. As he was shutting down his computer, he noticed an old sticky note on his desk drawer. It had faded over time, but the words still made his stomach twist with recognition. Create, lead, build. It was something he had written in college, a personal motto he'd created during his freshman year. Back then, he would recite it every morning to remind himself why he was studying business in the first place. But somewhere along the way, in the endless cycles of expectations and deadlines, he had buried that version of himself. Daniel drove home that night soaked and silent, but something had reawakened inside him. He knew he couldn't keep pretending. He couldn't spend the next 40 years watching his life pass like scenery from a train window. He decided to take action. He started small. While still working his corporate job during the day, he began building an online business at night. It was an e-commerce platform that sold personalized productivity planners, tools to help others like him take control of their lives and goals. He designed everything himself, sourcing materials, creating a website, building a social media presence. He worked on it during his lunch breaks, late at night, and early in the morning before work. For months he barely slept. Most people didn't understand. His friends thought he was wasting time. Amanda grew frustrated. "You never have time for us anymore," she said one night. "You're obsessed with this side thing." "It's not a side thing," Daniel replied. "It's who I really am." Eventually Amanda left. And Daniel, while heartbroken, felt oddly at peace. For the first time in his life, he wasn't compromising who he was to make others comfortable. 1 year in, his little business started gaining traction. Influencers began using and promoting his planners. Orders trickled in, then poured. He reinvested every dollar back into the business. He started shipping internationally and hired 2 part-time virtual assistants to help with logistics. By year 2, he had made enough money to quit his corporate job. The day he handed in his resignation letter, Daniel stood in front of the mirror and smiled. Not the polite smile he had worn for years, but a real one. He had finally taken his life back. Of course, the journey wasn't easy after that. There were months when sales dipped, times when he doubted himself, and moments when he missed the security of a steady paycheck. But through it all, he never forgot why he had started. Eventually, Daniel's company grew into a full-fledged lifestyle brand. He expanded into digital courses, coaching programs, and even a podcast where he shared his story and encouraged others to stop living someone else's life. His story resonated with thousands, then millions. He began speaking at events, writing articles, and mentoring young dreamers who reminded him of his younger self. Years later, at a sold-out leadership summit in San Francisco, Daniel told the crowd, "I used to live a life that others thought was best for me. I wore the right clothes, said the right things, and chased the right goals. But I was slowly dying inside. One day, I realized that the life I was living wasn't mine. It was borrowed. And you cannot be truly happy living someone else's dream." He paused, looking around the room filled with eager eyes and notebooks ready to be filled. "If there's one thing I hope you take away from today, it's this: your dreams are valid. Even if no one understands them yet. Even if they laugh. Even if it's hard. Because in the end, your life belongs to you. Don't waste it living someone else's." The room erupted in applause. Back home in Ohio, his parents sat together watching their son on a live stream. His mother had tears in her eyes. His father, once doubtful, now beamed with pride. "He did it, Elaine," Michael said softly. "He really did it." Daniel Carter had stopped living someone else's life. And in doing so, he inspired thousands to do the same.